Hi, how are you? I'm Reverend Sheena Metal, and this is Saturday Night Spiritual. You're at the Founders Metropolitan Community Church, Los Angeles page. It's wonderful to be here with you all. I'm on staff at Founders MCC. I'm the Interfaith pastor, and I'm honored on the second Saturday of every month to bring you this interfaith service that is a universal, light-filled, love-based service for everyone. I'm the Reverend Sheena Metal, and I am an interfaith person. I believe that all roads paved in good lead us to the light. And I believe that we are more alike than we are different, and that together we are stronger. United we stand, divided we fall, right? It's very true. This is kind of a funky day for me. It's the 7th anniversary of my mother's passing, and those of you who have watched my services before or are familiar with me know that my mother was kind of my everything, and was such a beautiful and vibrant soul, wise, spiritual, kind, gentle, tender, tough. She used to always say that everything that ever happened during her life made her stronger, but it also made her softer. And I've always loved that. I think we need to think about that, right? As life kicks us around, and certainly every life does to all of us, right? Certainly it did to her. The things that made her tougher also made her softer. And I think that is so beautiful. I grew up as a kid so much loving Abraham Lincoln. He was sort of my imaginary friend when I was a toddler, and my mom would drag me around, and I would make her drag me around all these places where he was born and where he died, and to see the pillow with his drops of blood on it where he died. And I was a cryptic 4-year-old, I guess, but I just had to be everywhere that he was. But it wasn't until I was well into the middle of my life that I learned that his mother, who had died when he was young, as my mother's mother had died when she was young, was all about his mother and how she guided him from the beyond, as mine really has for the last 7 years. And his famous quote that I love, all that I am or hope to be, I owe to my angel mother. And I always think about that. Excuse me. I always say someday when I write a book about her, and I will, that will be on the first page inside, that quote. My mother had this expression, that because she had grown up so lonely, so alone, she was orphaned very young, first from a very, very poor family. My grandmother worked on an assembly line to take care of 5 kids. Very, very poor. My mother never had a Christmas present until she was adopted when she was 12. Basically starving, and then adopted. Then orphaned, then in orphanages and foster homes, finally adopted by folks who fed her and clothed her, but pretty much sent her off to boarding school. So many things happened to her in her life, and she spent so much of her life alone. And she always said that her life changed the day that I was born, because she never had to be alone again. And she used to say this really interesting thing, which is what inspired today for me. She would always say, all you need in your life is one person to love you. And I always thought that was such a beautiful thing, that the idea that one person, it only takes one person to change your life. And, we think sometimes we're on social media, right? And we're wondering why we don't get likes, and am I going to go viral? Am I going to get the follows? Like and subscribe. But the truth is, in your life, it just takes one person to love you, to make that difference. Just one person can change your life. And sometimes you have more than one person in your life, and it's one person at a time. but we all have this innate need, this innate spiritual need to love and be loved. And we don't need to have 50 people around us. If we do, fantastic. You're so lucky. I'm so thankful to have a spiritual family because I was not given a birth family. I'm so happy to have friends that I call my family and wonderful best friends that I call my sisters. I lucked out. But if I just had one, that's all you need. All you need is one person to change your life. One person's positive influence will change your life. And isn't that a wonderful story? It's sort of like how it just takes one spiritual experience to change your life. You don't have to have 50 revelations. God doesn't have to touch you on the forehead every day. Just once. And it changes your life. So while we're waiting to talk about that, and we will, I just really quick want to let you know where you are and where you can go to get more connected, because that's important. So we are Founders Metropolitan Community Church, Los Angeles. And the church is in Hollywood. I'm here doing my service online. I'm right now about an hour south of Hollywood without traffic at the beach, which is a place that I find to be very spiritual. I actually sit at my mother's desk and do these broadcasts for you. I'm living in the home that I grew up in right now, getting it ready to become a primary residence for me. They say you can't go home again, but I did. And it's kind of a beautiful thing to go home sometimes. So we are at foundersmcc.org. We also have a wonderful YouTube page, Founders Metropolitan Community Church, Los Angeles, a fantastic Facebook page where this video is broadcasting now and then being spread out all over my pages, all over social media. And I'm at sheenametalspiritual.com. Also, if you want to watch some previous broadcasts of Saturday Night Spiritual Services, you can go to RevSheena, It's a mouthful. RevSheena, and my website is sheenametalspiritual.com. I believe in peace and love and kindness and unity. I'm also the founder of raisingthevibration.org, a movement of those four things that I founded really on my mom's teachings, based on trying to copy her spirituality and her humanity and share it with the world. Because I believe when someone has touched you, it is almost a spiritual responsibility to share what they have given you with another. I mean, that's what religion is, right? It's what spirituality is. You have an experience with God, and then it is your service to share that with someone else. Spirit gives me a message, and I pass it on to you. It's the same thing with living people, right? You get a message from someone, you learn something beautiful, and then you pass it on to someone else. I'll give you an example. So my very best friend, we've been best friends since I was 14. She is my sister. We hit the 40-year mark. It's very exciting. She has this wonderful expression about when you let people go from your life with love. And that expression is namaste away. And she taught me that years and years ago. I probably use that in my teaching and in my services at least once. I just did it now, at least once every single time. To me, there's something so beautiful about namaste away. You're letting people go in love and light. So that's something I got from my best friend that I use every day in my spiritual practice. So as we receive messages from God and pass that on as our service, we also receive messages from the living and pass it on as our service. And I really did with my mom. I learned so much from her. And oddly enough, she learned from me, because I think mothers learn from all their children, right? Interesting stuff. Children learn from their parents and parents learn from their children. And that's a beautiful circle of life, right? It's a beautiful cycle. So one of the wonderful things that I learned from my mom was to never say never. And she did not baptize me as a child because she believed that was my choice that I could make when I was old enough to know what I wanted. And I never became baptized because I never found a place I wanted to be baptized. And she would always say, never say never, kid. Never say never. Never say never. And I believed her because I loved her and I believed her advice, because I trusted her, because that's what it's like to have someone in your life that you love. Well, lo and behold, a couple of years after she died, the Reverend Steve Peters, our beloved Reverend Steve Peters, took me to a Sunday service here at Founders, and I met and fell madly in love with our senior pastor, Keith Mazingo, who, a miracle happened there. It turns out that I became a part of this church, and then I got baptized. And that is the beauty of how one person can change your life, right? My mama always said, never say never. Someday you will find the church for you. And she was right. I did. So this is how people change each other's lives, right? Every day we are changing the lives of, well, people we don't know, right? People we're influencing by just seeing us or knowing about us or seeing us on social media. But most importantly and most beautifully, every day, every time we encounter someone we love, we are learning from them and they are changing us in some way. And then we take the learning and the change and we pass it on and change others' lives. That's what my mother did for me. And now I do that every day in my spiritual work, in my ministerial work, through my spiritual nonprofit. I help people with the things that she helped me with. And that's why it only takes one person to change your life. Now, I'm so honored to be here at Founders MCC and so honored that this church has trusted me with their parishioners and their congregation and their beautiful reputation to carry on their love and their light and their service and their community advocacy and activism and all the beautiful things that this church represents. I'm honored to be part of this family. And they have changed my life. Pastor Keith has changed my life. Reverend Alejandro, our Spanish-speaking ministries pastor, has changed my life. These two men have changed my life. Reverend Steve Peters, Reverend Lucia Chappelle, so many people here, wonderful members of our church. It only takes one person to change your life. And isn't it beautiful when it happens a little bit every day? And remember that. You know, when my mom said to me when I was little, it only takes one person to love you, that was because for a long time, she just had me. You know, my father traveled, he'd move her somewhere where she didn't know anybody, he'd take off. This was before we had the internet and unlimited long-distance phone calls, and she didn't really have a family. Her adopted family wasn't close. Her birth family had disappeared. When I was born, I became her best friend. She suddenly had one person to be with all the time, and that changed her life. And she never had to feel alone. And I think sometimes as human beings, we spend a lot of time worrying about what we don't have in our lives, right? I don't have a partner. I don't have a big group of friends to do things with. I'm not friends with people from my high school. Whatever people are saying, right? You don't have to have any of that. It's a blessing. But all you really need is one person to love you. Just like we have one source, right? One source of light, one source of God energy that loves us. And that source coming in, that light, that beauty is what fuels us. You don't need 27 gods telling you every day, hey, you just need to feel that warmth every day and know that you were put here by Spirit for a reason, that you are an important part of the universe, that you are loved, and that your existence is validated. You don't need Jesus to call you one day and Buddha to call you the next, and Krishna sending you an email, and Shiva sending you a text message. You don't need that. You just need to know that the one benevolent source loves you and you're okay. And it's the same thing with people. People can be hard, right? What's that quote? Some people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. People who are in your life for a season, there's a reason why they're there. For a reason, pun intended, there's a reason why for that too. People are in your life for your spiritual growth, for your learning, to make you stronger, to make you more gentle, to make you more enlightened. And we're so lucky the way that we grow every day, exponentially by who we encounter. We are put on this earth as a source of change. We're supposed to always be changing and growing. We're not here to be stagnant. We're here to be fluid. And part of that fluidity is change. And sometimes change hurts. Sometimes somebody comes into your life and then 2 years later, you don't see them again. I'm very fortunate to be friends with some folks that I went to high school with. But not everybody is. Or some people come in on Facebook and you have a conversation for a couple weeks and then they drift again. That's okay. Because you have to think of the love in your life, right? The folks that come into your life and bring their light and bring their love. Not as something that you're grabbing and holding on to forever, but as something that's coming in, bringing you the gift, bringing you the lesson, and then they're off to their next thing, and you're off to yours. They have changed your life. They came into your life and they changed your life. My mother has changed my life as much since she has passed than she did when she was alive. Just because somebody passes doesn't mean they stop changing your life, because you grow and change exponentially when you lose somebody that you love. And that is part of the cycle of fluidity too, right? When I was little, my mom had told me something, and I've told this story so many times that people say, oh my God, I can't believe your mom told you that. You were so little. I mean, I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And my mom, we were driving, I remember. And my mom stopped the car and she looked at me and she said, kid, people change and they leave and they die, and it's okay. And all you really, really have in this life is yourself. And that's why you need to learn to be your best friend. And I will always be here and I will always love you. But I'm 33 years older than you. And someday I'll probably pass before you. So you have to promise me, when I die, you won't die too. So 7 years ago, I'm sitting in a hospital room in Newport Beach. And my mom is dying. And I'm overcome with grief, right? And I can't think, and I'm numb. And then I hear my mom say, when I die, don't you die too, kid. And I promised her when I was 8 years old that I wouldn't curl up and die when she died. So she passed. About an hour later, I called one of my best friends, Amy, who lived on the East Coast. So thank God it's 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning when my mom died, at dawn, really. Amy was awake in her world. My other best friend, Lisa, that I was talking about, who I've been friends with since I was 14, she stayed on the phone with me as long as she could at night till she literally passed out. Then I had that time with Mom. She passed, and then Amy got me through the next few hours. And that's really what it was like. People that I loved got me through 2 hours here, 2 days here, an hour here, 6 hours here, until I realized that the best way I could honor my mother was to get into service, become a person of service. And my whole life changed. I founded the nonprofit in her honor. I became a minister. I opened a spiritual practice. I started to teach workshops. And I did so many things that my mom did in her life. My mom was a teacher. My mom was a psychic medium. My mom was a therapist. My mom was a person who loved going to church. And I sometimes sit when I do these services and I think about how she would tell me this is exactly where I belong. And I might not even be here had she not passed. That is how one person changes your life. Sometimes even after they die, they continue to change your life. And it only takes one person to help you make that change. And we're here, we need each other, right? We're here for each other. Everything in the teachings of Christ, everything in the teachings of Buddha, everything in the teachings of Krishna, it's all about how we need each other. To me, everything that Christ said breaks down essentially to 3 words: connection, community, and love. We're here to make the connection to spirit. We're here to make connection to others. We're here to build community, to build tribe, to grow the light through building tribe with each other. And we're here to love, to give love, to receive love, to make sure others are loved. It's pretty groovy when you think about it. When you think about life that way, it makes life so much better. And my mom, and I know today's about my mom, but today's about my mom. Because she had endured so many horrible things in her life, she had learned to adopt this attitude of staying positive through the negativity. When my mom wasn't feeling well or when she got depressed, her thing was, let's order a bunch of food and go rent 4 movies. Because that was when you rented movies at Blockbuster, right? So we would go to our Chinese restaurant that we loved because the owner lived across the street, or her favorite Italian place on the corner that's still open that I go to all the time to honor her. And we would order, a ton of stuff to share. It'd be me and her, and I'd have my ex-boyfriend there, or my ex-girlfriend there, or, sometimes my dad would be there. As it'd be 3, 4, 5 people max, and we'd have 10 dishes. And then she'd send me to the Blockbuster to get a bunch of 4 movies, and then stop on the way home at Baskin Robbins and get ice cream. And I wonder why I'm fat. I'm fat, but I've seen a lot of movies, and that's wonderful. And then it would just be fun. She'd pull out blankets. She'd put blankets all over the room, and then we'd all lay there and watch TV and laugh. And it healed her. It helped her. It helped to be with people. It helped to have fun, to not wallow in problems, but to laugh through them. And when I was 31, my mom had breast cancer. And luckily, stage 0. But at the time, she didn't know. It just was scary. And I said to her, what are we going to do? And she said, honey, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to keep laughing. And we did. We laughed all through it. We laughed about everything. And that's what we did right up until she passed. We laughed. It only takes one person to get you through everything. It only takes one person to change your life. And it only takes one connection with spirit for you to know you're okay. This year, This baby has changed my life. This is my COVID baby. Got him when he was 3 days old. And he got me through the time of COVID and some changes I went through last year, coming back here and living in this house and having to deal with a lot of grief that I hadn't dealt with. This beautiful little soul, he is the Saturday Night Spiritual's smallest parishioner, probably most dedicated. And it's okay. He can come up during any service and get snuggles because he deserves them for being literally the best therapy cat in the world. His love has gotten me through a difficult time. Right? Because it only takes one, right? It doesn't have to be a person. It only takes one being to change your life. And this little guy has changed my life in so many ways. That's why it's so important. I know I talk about this. This is sort of the sub-theme, right, of so many of my sermons. Keep believing, right? As my mama used to say, keep the faith, kid. Keep believing, keep being hopeful, and keep trusting in God. Believing that Spirit has your best interest at heart and you're not going to be led astray. You just trust. You know, when this little guy crawls in my arms, and he's 14 pounds, so I will say, without revealing my weight, that I weigh a little bit more than him. He trusts that I'm not going to hurt him. I'm a lot bigger than him. And he trusts that I'm not going to do anything to hurt him. And I trust that he's not going to hurt me. That he's not going to take those sharp little teeth and tear my face off. That kind of beautiful mutual trust. We need more of that. We need to believe that Spirit has our best interests at heart. We need to believe that there is a benevolent force that's always looking out for us. We need to believe that it only takes one being to change your life. We need to believe that we're not going to hurt each other. Now, if somebody turns out to not be who they say they are and they hurt you, then you need to namaste away. Right, baby? But you need to then get up and trust again. Right? You've got to keep trusting, keep believing, and keep being open to change. So I'll tell you a little funny thing. Funny, haha, funny. I just cried 10 minutes ago about my mom. She ingrained in me that she would always be with me, that we were a team. And whether she was on the earth or not, we were going to stay a team. And that has been so true. And it's been such a way to keep the pain of grief away. I mean, there's always, I wish I could call her. I wish I could hug her. I wish we could watch TV. You know, my mom loved to binge Law and Order all night long. But I keep her so close to me that it's almost like she never left. And it's easy to do that because she taught me how to connect and trust, how to connect to God and trust God, how to connect to Spirit. And if you're connecting to Spirit, if you are connecting to God, and you learn to rely on that trust, right? Because the truth is, God doesn't knock on the door and show up as a biological person with a bag of burgers and fries, although that would be great, right? So we have to trust that Spirit is there. Spirit every day is changing our lives, but we have to trust that Spirit is there. We have to trust that Spirit is changing our lives. And because we learn to trust in God, because we learn to trust in someone that we can't see every day, and we learn to trust in a force that we know is there and we feel in our heart and in our solar plexus is there, and in our third eye feel is there, but we can't with our eyes see God. That has taught us that we are loved by people who are maybe not in the room with us, maybe not in our same town, in our same state, in our same country, on the earth with us. Still, you trust that they love us. You can trust that they love you. You can trust that they are with you. You can trust that they are still capable of changing your life every day. Because it only takes one. It only takes one person to change your life. It only takes one day to change your life. It only takes one message to change your life. That's truly a beautiful thing. And the fluidity I talked about earlier, the fluidity of life, right? How life is not supposed to be a stagnant thing. Life is supposed to be a fluid thing. That is how our spirituality is too. Our spirituality is supposed to be fluid. It's okay. And this is what I talk about all the time as an interfaith minister. The crossing of the cattail. It's okay to be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old and suddenly say, wow, I never thought about that before, but now I believe in that. That happens to me all the time. I call it your spiritual palate, right? And I like you to think of it like a plate at a salad bar. It is forever changing. Sometimes you like something. I just discovered, and I'm going to be 56 in 3 weeks. I just discovered at 56 years old that I like cooked carrots. Now, my whole life, I have loved raw carrots, but I've not liked cooked carrots. And when I'm eating somewhere and they tell me, the vegetables, cooked carrots, I'm always like, I'm like, can I have anything else? Can I have cottage cheese? Can I get a piece of lettuce? Could I have, anything but the cooked carrots. But I went through an interesting thing a couple of weeks ago where I eliminated gluten and sugar from my life and tried to go very low carb. And I was going every day and picking up a steak because I realized I was extremely low iron. And the first 2 days, the vegetable was cooked carrots. And I thought, And then I said to myself, no, you know what? You're going to eat the cooked carrots because every vegetable's good. And you're going to put every vegetable in your mouth and eat it for the food value. So I started kind of just shoveling down the carrots. They're baby carrots. Maybe that makes a difference. All of a sudden I thought, you know what? These are kind of groovy. These are like something I would look forward to now. I love cooked carrots. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Who knew that was going to happen? Because at every time in your life, no matter how old you are, your palate can change and grow. In the same way, your spiritual palate can change. You can all of a sudden say, you know what? I resonate with something. So my best friend was in Europe last month and this month. And one of her best friends, they went to his hometown, which is Bari in Italy. And big old Irish me discovered through my 23andMe that I'm half Italian, that my mother was Irish and my father, whom I didn't know, was 100% Italian. So Bari is the home of St. Nicholas, the saint, right? St. Nicholas, the Santa saint, St. Nicholas of Bari. So my best friend brought me a statue of St. Nicholas because I have statues of all my favorite saints, St. Patrick and St. Bridget, the patron saints of Ireland, and St. Francis Francis, who also, oddly enough, is Italian. So she brought me home this statue of St. Nicholas, and I started studying about St. Nicholas, and now I'm obsessed that he got, labeled Santa Claus. The Santa Claus myth began around him because he loved to do charitable things and give gifts and do wonderful things for people. And he's the patron saint of unmarried people. And guess who's never been married? So I've adopted this new lovely spiritual thing into my palette just this month. And you can too. And that's the beauty of interfaith. It doesn't make me any less a believer in Christ or a believer in Buddha. It doesn't make me any less interfaith. It doesn't make me any less of a progressive Christian that is enjoying being a pastor here at MCC. It just means this wonderful new thing came into my life. Just like a wonderful new person can come into your life and change it, God can bring in a person, a furry person, or a spiritual ideology. And now there's a new thing in my life. And he's right there in my curio cabinet, right over there. And it's beautiful. It's a very pointy hat and a very thin staff. And he made it all the way from Italy in a suitcase, and there's not a mark on him. This is beautiful. This is the change that I talk about during so many of these services. The change for good, the evolution, the enlightenment. This is something that my mom taught me that I carry with me even though she's passed. Life is ever changing, and change is good. And one person can change your life, and one cat can change your life, and having a parrot can change your life. And moving back into your childhood home can change your life. And loving the city you're in can change your life. Consistently, God changes your life. And we're here to accept, to separate what's good for us with what isn't, to revel in the things that are good, to embrace the change, to surrender to spirit, and to live and be happy. That's so much what I talk about every single day when I'm here with you all doing Saturday Night Spiritual. Every single month we talk about this. The second Saturday of every month, 5 o'clock Pacific time. Change is what it's about. Change is evolution. Change is enlightenment. It only takes one thing, one person, to change your life. Let it happen. And embrace it. Embrace that change. Make that change. As Michael Jackson said, Man in the Mirror, one of my favorite songs. Make that change. All right? Now here's the part where I tell you some of the wonderful things happening at Founders MCC. Sunday services are amazing. The 10 a.m. English speaking service with our senior pastor, Keith Mazingo. He's wonderful. Check it out. Online, in person. Enjoy it. It'll be right here on this page, live. Our Spanish speaking service at 1:30 p.m. every Sunday with Reverend Alejandro Escoto. He's wonderful. And on April 2nd, which is my birthday, by the way, I hate I'm going to miss it because I'm going to be teaching out of town. The Spanish service every year does a passion play. And it's extraordinary. And it really shows the talent. There's amazing artistic talent in this church. Amazing creative talent, as well as spiritual talent. Make sure you check that out. And help us to help you to help others by donating when you can through at foundersmcc.org. And you can make sure to write it's for Saturday Night Spiritual so people know you enjoyed this. Because it matters so much to me that you enjoyed this because I so enjoy being here for you. And remember to look up everything about this wonderful church at foundersmcc.org. And on YouTube are the services. And on Facebook are the services. That's what my mama called a y'all come church. Everybody's welcome. No matter how you grew up, who you are, where else you go to church. Come and enjoy what we have to offer and enjoy this in your homes the second Saturday of every month. We're going to grow it and it's going to become this cool thing. I'm all kinds of ideas for how I can set it up to be really beautiful. In this time of COVID, many things have changed, and this may be something that has changed. And I'm hoping to set up a room in my house as sort of a church where we can come to you live on the second Saturday of every month with maybe even some actual people here. As MCC started, right, with Troy Perry and a dozen people in his living room, Saturday Night Spiritual may do the same from my living room. We're going back to basics here, folks. SaturdayNightSpiritual.com. SaturdayNightSpiritual.com is our community page. Our archive page, RevSheenaFoundersMCC.com. RevSheenaFoundersMCC.com. That's where you can find wonderful past sermons. You can see guests, music guests, Pastor Keith, Reverend Alejandro. It's awesome. And don't forget that we have a Founders Metropolitan Community Church app. Get the app. I'm getting the app today. I thought I had the app, but I'm getting the app today. You can donate that way. You can learn. It's all so easy. Church is now in the 21st century, my friends. And if you'd like to give to the church, if you'd like to donate, you can text 77977. How amazing is that? 77977. 9 was my mother's spirit number. Everything with her was 9. And she was born on November 9th. She died in 2016. It was a 9 year if you add all the numbers up. So 77977. It's like the luckiest number in the world. It's 4 sevens for luck. In the middle is a 9. It's the spiritual completion number. You gotta love that. You can find me at SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. Please reach out. I love to hear from you, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have about anything I talk about at any service. Thank you for being here. Thank you for always watching. Thank you for being and living in the light and doing what you can to make the world a better place. Thank you for contributing and donating and giving what you have. Thank you for being wonderful spiritual beings on a path to enlightenment, as we all are. I'm Reverend Sheena Metal. This is Founders MCC, Saturday Night Spiritual Service, the second Saturday of every month at 5 o'clock Pacific time. And I'm going to end this with the Irish prayer for mothers, for my beautiful mother, who we lost 7 years ago today. May embers from the hearth warm your hands. May sunshine from an Irish sky warm your face. May a child's bright smile warm your heart. And may everlasting love warm your soul. I love you all, and every month you warm my soul. I'm Reverend Sheena Metal. Go with God. I love you all. We'll see you next month. Take care.